So obviously, there's been a lot of stuff happening with USAID, and it's kind of like seems like we were going through a culture shift here, a huge paradigm. I was watching Joe Rogan the other day, and he had a guest on, and he kind of made a point. It's like the Earth just got hit with an asteroid, and you have people pretending like it didn't happen. And whether that's the case or not, and my question's kind of for Dan, and I get your perspective on it. I actually think all of this, in a weird way, if it's done right, can be a blessing for the Democrats. Why? I think the Democrats have always worked at lockstep. They stick together like no others, and I think that has created them a hard time stepping out of what they've done into what the party is going to be in the future. And I think it has a weird way of going younger because a lot of the old guard in the Democratic Party is kind of getting caught up in some of this mess. And you have younger Democrats that instead of kind of sticking with them, they can kind of call out the fraud with the Republicans and say, you know what, this isn't what the Democrat Party stands for. We have gotten away from our ways, and instead of doing the Kamala sticking by Joe thing, they can actually step aside from the older guard of the Democrats and kind of refresh in the Democrat Party if they do it right.
Yeah, David, brilliantly well said. Dan.
Yeah, I think brilliant and well said. I think what's interesting about it is there was the younger members, Jared Moskowitz from Florida, Ro Khanna, Richie Torres, initially said, hey, we're open to working with Doge. Like they joined the Doge caucus. They were kind of like, okay, we'll bring some of our ideas to the table. And when the Musk steamroller then just took off and wasn't listening or taking questions or feedback from anyone, they were just kind of focused on going forward. A lot of Democrats said, whoa, wait, time out. I mean, this looks kind of almost out of control and less like a scalpel and more like a machine gun. And I think whether they personally felt like this is too far, too fast for me to be a part of, or they just looked at the politics of it and said, I cannot, join in on this. I do agree with you. I wrote a little Substack on this yesterday that if I were the Democratic Party, I would not defend the status quo. I would try to join in on this and put one, our own stuff, our own ideas forward, and two, where you want to defend, because I do think some of this stuff is inappropriate to cut, you have to put real people forward to say, this is the impact, right? The child who gets the Head Start, the person who receives the health benefit, the clean water, like what Democrats are doing now is objecting kind of on process, on just in the big picture, like you can't touch USAID. Whereas Musk is saying, here's 100,000 that was misspent or 2 million that was misspent with tangible examples that people are saying, ugh, like that doesn't seem right. So I think you make a lot of good points.
Sean.
I agree with all the, I think you're pointing out something that's really smart, that the Democrats have a huge opportunity here. Someone gets to clean the deck for them, and they can almost start anew instead of defending the status quo that exists, because by definition right now, they have to defend political, public unions and these institutions. And it's so right now somebody else gets to go clean it. In theory, if you're a Democrat, you guys go do that, and then we get to build it back in our way again, in a modern way, in theory. I just don't think, and there's a reason I said the DNC is the loser, and Dan mentioned the congressional Democrats, and Mark mentioned, Democrats. It's that they're not seizing this moment in a smart way. And so you're absolutely right. This is so interesting that when given the opportunity to use this as a rebuilding effort, almost like a sports team, instead they're doubling down on stupid.